Hi guys, here I am again. So I'm going to show you this edit. This is before, and I grab that guy and move him, and then I moved him with his original shadows, not with. I'm going to show you. I'm going to turn off these final adjustments, and I'm going to come close so you can see the shadows. And those are his shadows. Okay, let me just show him without the shadows, and now if I switch on his shadows, that's how he looks like. Okay, so what I'm going to do, get rid of everything here, and I'm going to start from scratch. This is the background. I saw this background, but it can be done with any background, not just this one. And here is my boy. So the first thing I can do here, I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm not going to edit too much of the skin, just a little bit. So I'm just going to grab my J tool. This is spot healing brush, and I'm going to just remove a few little pimples. I think it's not a pimple here. So he has a little bit too dark of shadows here. So I'm going to just duplicate this layer, and I'm going to grab my S for my stamp tool, and I'm going to make sure it is in Lighten blending mode, and I'm going to put it in 10% opacity. And I'm going to sample from the light and apply to the dark. If I sample from dark, apply to light, it's not going to work. That's why I put it on Lighten. So I'm sampling from here by holding my option for Mac out for PC, and I'm going to apply a little bit. It's going to apply only over the darker, just a little bit. So the same thing here, sampling from down there and applying a little bit. I don't want to overdo it. I want him to look like himself. This mom in particular is asking me to reduce that thing with the unibrow. She has 4 children, all of them have that thing, and I do not remove it. I do the same thing. I'm sampling from here. I'm on Lighten blending mode, and the changes apply only over the darker spots. So that's more than enough, and I'm done with him. So what I'm going to do, this is actually going to work only, that technique for moving the shadows are going to work only, it's going to work only with if you shoot on smooth floor, smooth paper, or smooth without texture on the ground. So I'm going to grab my move tool, grab that baby and hold it and move it and drop it somewhere there. I'm not going to drop it here because it's not going to work, and I will release it. Let me reduce the opacity, and I'm going to go to Edit and Free Transform. Command T is the shortcut, and I'm going to make him smaller. Very important. If your subject is not in the same perspective, that is not going to work. The most important here is to watch the perspective and the light. As you can see, my light comes from this side. Let me agree with this. And also you can clearly see the shadows here, so my light comes from that side. Now I'm going to do selection. And the back selection is done with the pen tool, but I'm not going to do that because it just takes longer. So I'm going to grab my quick selection tool, and don't expect me to do absolutely perfect. They are going to be perfect places, but not all of them. So I'm kind of dragging only my quick selection tool. W is the shortcut, making sure everything is inside, and see if it comes like it's here. Let me grab it. W is the shortcut. I'm going to hold my option key and remove from that selection. there is another choice here. You can click here, but I prefer to hold my option key. So I'm holding my option, dragging, and that thing is going to remove that selection. I'm subtract from the selection. I'm reducing the size of the tool by clicking on the bracket key. I'm adding to the selection. When I release my option key, remove from the selection, subtract from the selection when I hold my option key. The tool is by default on plus, so it's going to be adding all the time. So this is adding. Holding my option key is going to subtract from the selection. Here we go, subtracting by holding my shift key again, and I'm dragging here and adding to the selection. And I'm going to hold my option key and subtract from this selection by holding my option key and dragging. So now I'm going to hold my option key, option for Mac, Alt for PC, and I am subtracting from that selection. Here it looks like, let me select that sleeve. I'm going to hold my option key to subtract from this selection, as you already know. Then it subtract a little bit more, I'm releasing it and dragging again. Holding my option key again. Here we go. I release the option key, holding it and going there, releasing it, painting again. It didn't work, that's okay. I'll fix that. And looks decent. And when you have your tool, this tool active, quick selection, you're going to have select and mask. And here is select and mask, and you can look at this selection over the layer, and the shortcut is Y on the layers which you're going to work on. And what I'm going to do here, if I had here, I would have gone with the refine edge tool. R is the shortcut. I'm going to go with the refine edge here somewhere on this lace. Again, don't expect me to do a perfect job because this is just a tutorial. That refine edge tool works great on here. I don't have here now here, but I'll do tutorial with here. It's good. I'm going to just feather that selection a little bit. And let's go to see if R is going to work. It doesn't work here. That's the refine edge tool. R looks like I can shift the edge of the selection, but I don't like how this tool shift the edge, so I'm going to do it in different way, which works better. And it's better. That's a little too much. I'll go okay. Well, I should put it on layer mask. I'll go okay. Oh, okay, computer's kind of slow. Here we go. Now let's fix that these edges here. First, I'm going to refine my selection here with my brush, B for my brush, making sure I am on this layer mask active, and I have to be in black because I'm going to subtract, remove that. So I am going to paint it, making my brush slightly bigger, making sure I'm 100% opacity, 100% flow. I'm going to be holding shift when I make when I paint. So I'm going to click here and hold shift and click here. Shift is connecting my clicks. Shift is connecting the clicks with straight line. So here we go. Clicking here, holding shift. So clicking here, holding shift, that is going to shift is connecting both of the clicks. Okay, with straight line. And that has to be perfect here because it's not the same color like the worse, so it has to be perfect. And this is what is going to take me the most time, and I'm kind of going to do kind of not really great because that's a tutorial, didn't I mention it? It's a tutorial. X to switch the color, and painting here to add some fingers are missing, and I will stop with this because this is way too time consuming. Again, this is a tutorial, so don't expect me to make it perfect. Now I want to show you how I will get rid of these edges here. In this case, let me go back a little bit. So when I have my layer mask active, I'm going to go to filter, other, and I'm going to go to minimum. Minimum will subtract from this selection, maximum will add to this selection. As soon as I click minimum, and let's fix it. So this is 2 pixels in, and it went in. It's pretty perfect. Let's do the preview. And if I do the same thing with selecting mask tool, it's kind of raggedy. It doesn't do as good as this filter, so I'm going to go OK. And my selection looks pretty decent, right? I can go here B for my brush, making sure I'm in white because I see something is missing here. Let me make it bigger. And oops, X to switch the colors. I said I have to be in white, but I was in black. And that looks good, right? These shoelaces, everything looks good. I think I have to clean this thing here a little bit. Clicking once, holding my shift, clicking second time, and the clicks are going to be connected with straight line because I'm holding shift. Okay. I will do different tutorial with selection on here, okay? I don't have here. Refine edge works great on here. And here we go. He looks as fake as it can be. So the colors are not matching. He will match everything. Let me show you how I'm going to put his shadows on. So we don't have shadows, looks faker than fake, okay? So I'm going to duplicate this by dragging it here. You can go Command J if you want to. I'm going to get rid of the layer mask. And here he is. But if I change this from normal to multiply, we have his shadows, don't we? Guy with shadows, guy with shadows. How about that? So I just have to add a layer mask here, convert it. If you have plenty of time to waste, you can go to image, adjustments, and then invert. And if you don't have that time, you have to learn the shortcuts. Command I. Okay. So I'm going to grab my brush tool, B for my brush, making sure the layer mask is active. X to switch the colors. Click here, or X to switch the colors. All of a sudden my X stopped working. I don't know why. B for my brush, making it bigger by clicking on the, all the shortcuts stopped working all of a sudden. Making it bigger, X to switch the color. Something is not working with me. Okay. Okay, they started working. Now X to switch the color, here we go. X to switch the color. And I'm going to paint his shadows. Those are his original shadows. The color is not the same like the background, but we can still the shadows. And I'll show you what kind of problem we can have with this. and how to fix it. And here we go. Shadows. No shadows. Good. Stay with me, I have much more to show you. Before my brush, I'm 100% opacity, 100% flow because I want all of the shadows. And let me paint them a little bit more, and I want to show you what kind of problem I'm going to run in. And now it became a little bit too much, so I'm going to reduce the opacity of my brush to 10%, for instance, and let's go 13 and kind of fade them here. When you do this, this is the problem which you may have. See that line here? This is the background. This is this showing, because it looks like I subtract from the selection a little bit too much, but this is also fixable. Then you can see this thing, which means my selection is not great, so you have to fix your selection here in between. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to bring back in white, 100% opacity, 100% flow, and I can go around and fix it, changing the color with X. And again, this is tutorial, so don't expect me to make a perfect spend all the time, which I'm going to spend if it's not tutorial. Okay, so what we are going to do here, you can see how his shoe sticking out. I'm going to go on the shadow. Let me just name it. Shadows. So I'm going to go to the shadows background. This background is called background copy tree, and this is shadows. So let's go to shadows, and I'm going to go to filter and liquify. So when you're on filter and liquify, you can click on show background or no show background. Sometimes it's confusing, but show backgrounds. And we want to see background copy tree. That's why I told you to look for the name. Z for my zoom tool, and I'm going to grab forward word tool. W is the shortcut, and I'm going to move this just ever so slightly in, also the shoe here, and I see what I'm moving now because I see, and I'm going to move. Let me make my brush bigger by clicking on the right bracket key and moving his just a pixel or so. And if you want to go, you can go in between the fingers, but I'm not going to right now, and I'll go okay. And now you can see how this thing is going to move in. Did you see it? So it went in, and you can see I don't have this effect now here. I still have it here, and if you want to go and clean the selection, you're not going to have it. Now we have him with his shadows, right? And if this is not dark enough, you can actually make it darker by duplicating it. But we don't need it. You can see it's a little bit yellow, so you can add an adjustment layer. I'm going to go to adjustment layers, and I'm going to go to hue saturation. I use shortcuts, okay. And I'm going to clip these hue saturations to this by clicking here. And I'm going to turn this from yellow to pinkish reddish color, what the thing below is, by going to yellows and shifting the yellows to the pinks. Okay, and look at the difference before and after. Before yellow, now it's pinkish, so it's all good. Yep, the colors don't match at all, I understand that. So I'm going to add some shadows behind him by adding a new layer, changing the blending mode of this layer to multiply. I'm going to grab my brush, B for my brush again, B for my brush. I'm going to make it bigger by clicking on the right bracket key. Soft round brush, as soft as you can. If it's not soft enough, fix it from here. So I'm going to grab from this dark color, this one, some dark color. I'm going to put my brush on 10% opacity by clicking on the number 1. It's going to become 10, but I'm going to do it from there. I'm going to start painting behind him. You can reduce the flow too and start painting. That's too much reduction of the flow. I'm just going to leave it like that for the purpose of tutorial to save time. And I'm going to paint, make that thing darker behind him. And it looks like when you make it darker, looks like we have a little bit of problem here, so you still have to clean the selection. Before my brush again, making it 100% opacity, 100% flow, and I'm going to make sure I am on this layer mask, white color. I'm with black now, X to switch the colors, white color, and I'm going to click here. Oops. I actually have to clean from the selection, sorry about that. Black color, X to switch the colors, holding my shift key, so let me make it a little bit bigger, overlapping a little bit from his jacket, of course. Here we go, I cleaned that selection. That looks good. I may need to add more to the back shadows to the background. This is my shadows. And before my brush again, making it bigger by clicking on the bracket key. I'm going 10% by clicking on that one. 1 is 10%, 2 is 20, 3 is 30, so on, 0 is 100. Now the guy color has nothing to do with the color of my background. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to duplicate this layer, the layer of the background. Then I'm going to grab the duplicate layer and put it over that boy. I didn't want to go. Okay, grabbing it and putting it over him. Everything is covered. And I'm matching colors now, so listen, be careful. So I'm going to hold my option for Mac, Alt for PC, and hold my mouse in between this layer and click, and this is clipped to the boy. But you don't see the boy. So what if we move it and change it to soft white? Don't you think that color match better? But he has lines on him. So what I'm going to do now is going to filter, blur, and average. This average blur will take all the colors and mix them in a big pot into one color. Now the color kind of match, and if it doesn't match perfect, you can always reduce the opacity. Most of the time works. Okay, it is a little dark on the face, but we can always fix that. Now we have a few problems with him, and I'm not going to be very particular in this, but you can see I have overexposed pants here. So I'm going to highlight that boy and put an adjustment layer, levels. And what I want the whites not to be that white, so I'm going to move that slider from the bottom. I'm going to remove the highlights, the whites, whatever. Then I'm going to go Command I, or again, if you have nothing to do, use this. If you're busy, Command I. I'm going to switch the colors X, and I'm going to paint on his pants. 10% opacity is going to take me way too long, so for a tutorial then. I'm going to reduce the opacity to 10 this time by clicking on the number 1 when I have my brush active. And that is approximately good. And because it's attached to it. It doesn't apply if I paint here. So that looks pretty decent so far. Now, I would like this background to be a little bit blurry. I don't like it that, well, it has to be sharp for you, but when you do a composite, you have to fix it. So I'm going to highlight the background. I'm going to duplicate it by dragging it here, and I'm going to right click on it and turn it into a smart object. I want it smart object because I want to be able to play with the blur. Then I'm going to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to blur it as much as I want. Let's go 5. That's a little bit too much, but I can always come back because this is a smart filter. The smart filter has a layer mask, so we want the floor to be sharp. Going to the layer mask, X to switch the colors, B for my brush, 100% opacity, 100% flow, and I am going to remove it from these two paths. Well, I should be a little bit more careful. This path, if that's not a tutorial, I'll go select it and I'll put it, remove it from there with the selection and paint, so I don't have to be really careful. And now that already looks better, right? Still not there. So that boy was on white, so it's very normal that his side here, everything would have been darker if he was on darker background, but he was on white, so the white acts like a reflector, so we have to add some adjustments to him. I'm going to click on him, and because I have already something which is attached to him, those are the shadows, click on the boy, not on the shadows, and because I have already attached stuff to it, if I add an adjustment layer, it's going to automatically attach to the boy. So let me attach an adjustment layer, and that adjustment layer will be levels. Let's do levels. So I'm going to reduce, I'm going to kind of make it slightly darker, and I'm going to invert that layer mask by Command I, but it's tutorial, so I have to do it from here. Adjustments and invert. B for my brush, I'm going to make it 10% opacity or so. X to switch the colors, and I'm going to make him darker. Well, let's go 20% opacity on this side. It doesn't look, let's go darker. His pants are way too fat here. And the shoe. Perfect. That looks good. I think I need a little bit more shadows behind him, so I'm going on the same layer. I'm going to do another one. New layer, multiply. B for my brush again. Sampling from the color is just this color. And I'm going to make it darker behind him. So he's going to pop more. 20% opacity is too much, so I'm going to click on 1 to turn it into 10%. And I'll paint behind him. Okay, let me adjust his color. He looks a little bit too yellow, and everything else looks a little bit reddish. So let's do the thing with hue saturation again, and we're going to go to the yellow again. And I'm going to shift the yellows to the pinks. Looks good. Now he has too much darkness here. Let me adjust levels, and I'm going to make him a little bit brighter. And I'm going to go image adjustments and Command I, invert, and I'm going to paint it on that side of his face. B for my brush, making it smaller by clicking on the left bracket key. And 10% opacity is good. Let's go 20% opacity, and that looks good. The selection looks good. I have a little fuzz here. I have a little fuzz here, not a big deal. The selection looks pretty good, and if there is something, you can fix it again. This is a tutorial. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm almost done. I'm going to do a few adjustments on raw filter, camera raw filter, okay? Do I need to make him a little bit darker, you think? Let me up that opacity. This is the color matching. I'm going to leave it on 100%. It kind of looks good. So I'm going to make stamp visible layer. Command Option Shift E is the shortcut for Mac. Command Option Shift E. Control Alt Shift E for PC. I'm going to right click and turn this thing into a smart object so I can come back. Okay, I'm going to go to filter, and here is the filter, camera raw filter. The shortcut is Command Shift A. And let's do a few adjustments here. It looks good, right? So I'm going to go to my radial filter. The shortcut is J, and I want to make adjustment out and inside. So I'm going to go inside first. So I'm going to click here. I want all the adjustments to be applied inside. So I have a few adjustments down here. So if I just click on one of them, one of whatever I want the shadows to be lighter. So I'm going to just click here, and everything is going to be adjusted, reset to 0. Just the shadows are going to be adjusted. So I'm going to click here. So I want the shadows to be brighter, and I'll start with this. And I'm going to draw this elliptical form. I'm going to show this is my adjustments are going to be here. You can see where it's going to be adjusted by clicking here. This is what is going to affect it. And if you want to use the shortcut, Y shortcut. Okay. So you can see the filter, the feathering. You can feather it out a little bit or make it super sharp. Just leave it as it is. And all the adjustments are going to be applied inside. Okay. If you don't want to see this line, V is the shortcut, like victory, or you can click here on overlay. Okay, so I'm going to remove that green stuff. And what I want here, since I already draw it, I can adjust it from here. I want less shadows inside. I want it a little bit more texture. Texture does something like dodge and burn. Look what it's going to do. Okay, if I put it all the way, but then it became kind of grainy. So I'm going to give it a little bit of texture, and I'm going to reduce the noise a little bit because of that. So it became a little bit like dodge and burn, but not exactly. And I want it a little bit sharper, of course. So this is the adjustment I want from inside. Now I want to make one adjustment outside, like vignette, but different way. So I'm going to click here on New, and I'm going to change my setting from inside to outside. Okay, so I'm going to reset all of the settings by just clicking on one of them and because I want it a little bit less exposed outside like a vignette, I'm going to click here. As soon as I click here, all settings are going to be set to 0, just the exposure will be set for me. Okay, so instead of going in readjusting all of them, so I'm going to draw a line, I'm going to draw an elliptical shape, and all of the stuff are going to be applied outside because I click here on outside. And if you want to see where you're adjusting, here we go. Now it comes a little bit too feathered, so I'm going to make it a little bit less feathered. Then I don't like this green stuff to see. I want to see what I'm doing. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to remove the texture a little bit, just a little bit, and I'm going to go with the clarity. Just Photoshop, Camera Raw has clarity, Photoshop doesn't. Sharpness, we have less sharpness. Then I want a little bit less saturation outside. I want everything to draw your eye inside. And let's see that exposure. Looks good, right? And then I'm going to click on my Z for my zoom tool. So I bring the main panel back, and I'm going to add texture all over, just a little bit. And that looks good. I'll go okay. And this is Camera Raw filter. So this is what we did in Camera Raw. And if I want to go and adjust anything of this which I did, I just have to click on the Smart object here, sorry about that, and go and revisit. Oops. Oh, sorry, I opened it in new. This is sorry about that. Let me just go back. I should have clicked here, not there. Sorry about that. I don't know where my brain is. So I can go back to Camera Raw. And if we want to readjust one of these, you can still have the pins here. Okay, you can activate the pins by clicking on them, and as soon as you hover over the pin, it's going to show which one of them is that was from the outside, and you can readjust stuff. Okay, so I'm going to cancel Camera Raw. I just wanted to show, and that's pretty much it. I could have done a little bit more with this stuff, but it's a tutorial, so it should not be really that long. Thank you very much. Subscribe my channel. Bye bye.